Hi, this is Donna. Welcome to DD Paper Crafts, and in today's video we're going to be making this pop-out card with an extra pop. Let me show you how I put the card together. For our mechanism we have a piece which is 4 inches by 2¼ inches, and along the 4-inch side we want to score through the centre at 2 inches. Along the top edge we're going to make a pencil mark at 1 inch and 3 inch. Rotate the cardstock 180 degrees. So our pencil marks are now at the bottom, and we want to make a pencil mark on the left hand side at 1 inch and at 1 inch on the right hand side. So we've got a centre score line, 2 pencil marks on the bottom edge and a pencil mark on the left and the right hand side. Fold the piece in half along the centre score line, place it back in the scoreboard with the fold line at the top, and make a pencil line at 1 inches and 1½ inches. So our mechanism has now got 6 pencil marks on it. What we're going to do now is you can either use your scoreboard, use your trimmer if it's got a scoring tool on it, or use a stylus and ruler. With our centre score line running horizontally, we're going to score from the top right hand corner down to the first score line from the right hand side. So we're going to score diagonally between here up to here. We're then going to do the same in the bottom half. So we're going to score from the pencil mark to the bottom right hand corner, like so. Then we're going to score from the second pencil mark at the top down to the remaining pencil mark on the centre fold, and we're going to do the same on the bottom. So we've ended up with 4 score lines. Get rid of the pencil marks. Now, either using your craft knife, scissors, whichever is your preferred method. I'm going to use my craft knife and ruler. We're going to cut from the second join point along the centre score line down to the pencil mark on the bottom edge. So I'm putting my craft knife in the right place and then moving my ruler up to my craft knife, and I'm keeping my craft knife pushed in against the ruler, and we're then going to cut from this pencil mark at the bottom up to the bottom score line on the right hand side. So we're creating a triangle. Do the same on the other side, and we end up with a piece which looks like this. And you should find that if you fold the piece in half, this shape matches. So now what we're going to do is we're going to manipulate the first score line coming down into a mounting fold, push the 2 pieces together, and you should find that the middle comes together, and then we can just burnish those score lines. And then we're going to fold under the 2 triangles, and again burnish those. So we have our mechanism which sits like so. What I would suggest you do to help you when we come to stick the mechanism in place is, if you lay the mechanism out flat like so, I would just draw an arrow towards these 2 centre parts of the triangle, and that will just help us indicate that this is the portion which is going to be sat against the centre of the card base. I'm using 6x6 card base, and therefore my panels, which are going to be adhered to my mechanism, are going to be 4 inches. And I will show you as we go through the construction what you need to bear in mind when you're calculating what size panels to put on your mechanism. So I'm going to score at 2.5, 5 and 7.5, and that's given me my 4 panels. I'm going to fold and burnish along the score lines in order to just differentiate between the 4 pieces, and this is just a preference. I'm going to just round off the corners just for decoration. When we come to stick this in, if this is our mechanism in the middle of our card, this centre score line between of the 4 pieces will sit on the middle section of the mechanism. We're now going to create our inner pop-out frames, and I've cut a piece of cardstock which is 4 inches by 6 inches. I'm going to score down the middle at 3 inches, and then I'm going to score at either end at 1/2 inch. So I'm scoring at 1/2 inch, 3 inches and 5.5 inches. We want to cut a portion out of the centre of these 2.5 inch panels to create our frame. So you can either use a rectangular die if you have one, or use your cutting knife and ruler, and you can make the aperture in the frame as wide or as narrow as you so choose. I'm going to use this, and this will produce an aperture which will be 2 inches by 3.5. So I will have a 1/4 inch frame all the way around. So I'm going to tape the frame into the first panel, run it through my die machine, and then repeat in the panel this side. So that's my frame. I'm going to place it back in my scoreboard and just re-score my 1/2 inch score lines because they've disappeared with the pressure in my machine. Now it's quite important that we get the next part as accurate as possible to make sure that the frame fits into this piece squarely. I'm going to make a 1/2 inch tab within this tab section here. I'm going to score at 1 3/4 inch down to the score line for the frame, and at 2 1/4 inch down to the score line for the frame. So I've ended up with this square in the middle. Rotate the frame round and do exactly the same thing. So 1 3/4 and 2 1/4. Then using my craft knife and ruler, and you can use your scissors or whatever your preferred method is for this, I'm going to line my frame using the lines on my cutting mat, getting my score line in line with the lines in my cutting mat, and I'm going to cut down the score line to my first horizontal score line. Cut the other side underneath, and then I'm just going to use my scissors, cut away up the tab. So I'm left with this tab on the side of my frame. I'm going to do the same the other side. What I'm going to do now, before I go any further, is I'm just going to round off corners on my frame, so my frame has got the same circular look. So what we now need to do is we need to cut a slot in here and in here, so in the first and the third score line, to accommodate our tab. So we can either fold our piece over and measure along 1 3/4, make a pencil line 2 1/4 to indicate our tab, so we can do it that way. So I'm going to make a pencil line at 1 3/4 and 2 1/4, and I would then use my craft knife to cut a slot in the score line between those 2 points. Or alternatively, if you prefer, line up your frame with its base like so, make sure it's in exactly the same place, and make a pencil line either side of your tab like so. So you do whichever method you prefer, but you need to make sure that the slots which we're now going to cut in our score line accommodate the tabs so that the frame sits nicely on the top. So now I have my pieces marked. I'm going to take my cutting knife and my ruler, make sure everything is lined up nice and square, and I'm going to cut a slot in the score line between my pencil marks. So I now have 2 slots like so. Get rid of my pencil marks. So what will happen is you might want to now just cut a very thin sliver off there just to help you get it through the slot, or you might find it's easy to get it through without cutting that away. And this is going to fit through the slot. This one fits through this slot, and that is our pop-out frame. So I'm going to fold these over and adhere those in place. There. Now you could choose to decorate the panels now. You could choose to decorate your panels before you put your pop-up frame in. You could choose to decorate your panels once it's in your mechanism. That's entirely up to you. If you have some, I would use white tack to start to work out the positioning of your mechanism. So I added white tack to my 2 triangle pieces, and I also added white tack to my 2 inner pieces of the back of my card. And this helped me to work out the positioning of my inner pop out. So after doing that, I ascertained that I needed my mechanism to be sitting roughly 2 inches from the top of the card edge. So I'm just going to lay my ruler, I'm going to add my glue to my triangle, lay my mechanism up against the centre, glue that in place, add glue to my top facing triangle, close my card front and just let that, and I'm not going to open that until I know that that glue is actually adhered. I'm going to pop my mechanism back down. So there's my mechanism for my pop out. I'm now going to add glue to this section, take my pop out section, and I'm just going to lay my 2 pieces up against the score line of my pop out and close my card. And when I open my card, my mechanism opens and my card pops out like so. And when that stands up, that's got a nice profile from the front. So I would suggest that depending on what size you decide to make your panels, so you play around with the placement of your mechanism. And now we can go ahead with our decoration. So here's the finished card. The paper that I've used in the main is Creative Craft products. This is from Craft Stash, and I've used the My Pets at Home paper pack, and I've used the Bright Gingham and Tiny Polka Dots paper pack. I have added some dimension. This piece here at the end and this piece are up on 3D foam. I haven't yet decorated the front. You will see that the 3D foam does add a little bit of bulk, but it's not too bad. But when you open the card, you get a nice effect, and I like the profile of it. So I hope you've enjoyed this project. I hope you give it a go. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit the notification bell. Until next time, thanks for watching.